Okay, this is an awesome build, this car. This was built by Horsepower Factory down in Melbourne. So all our Melbourne viewers down at, will know the Horsepower Factory, HPF. I've been down to their shop. They run a great business down there. They built this car. This car had a 7-litre supercharged engine, apparently. It's got big brakes. The interior's been done. But the customer who owned it previously took the engine out of it and they put an L77 in the car. It was making about 230 rear wheel kilowatts or 220 from memory. Just before Christmas, the customer who bought it, who's a Queenslander, was actually from the States. He bought this car, thought it was good value for money, which it is because all the mods done to it, full interior, suspension, the whole lot. Decided that he wanted something modified, but he wanted a cam. Never had a cam in his cars before, so we put a cam in it, and it made just over 300 kilowatts at the wheels with a store converter. That's good power. We've got a throttle position switch coming in because this one's got a faulty one, giving it a couple of idle issues, which shouldn't be an issue. We're just waiting for that part to show up today, and we'll sort that out. And we've got a coolant leak that we have to have a look at. So apart from that, the customer's very happy with this car. Okay, so typically the VT Commodore has a 5.7 LS3 in it. And this has got a 6-litre in it, but it's not an L98, it's an L77. So L77, L76s have what we call AFM inbuilt into the engine, which is a different triggering system which sits under the inlet manifold. So when we put a camshaft in it, we have to remove the heads. So only for the L77s, L76s, we have to remove the cylinder heads to replace the valley. So the valley plate, which sits under the inlet manifold in between the cylinder heads. So this is what is used to activate the active fuel management, so to speak. And we have to remove that so we don't have issues with it. Now, when you're tuning, you can turn it off on without a camshaft, with a standard camshaft. But in this particular case, the cylinder heads have to come off, the valley has to come off, and the lifters, the whole lot has to be replaced. So if you have a V8 Commodore and it's a 6-litre, check if it's an L77 or F76. Be prepared to pay extra because the cylinder heads do have to come off to do the job properly.
That's right, if you can see it. Around again.
Just swapping the sway bar we changed out for the original one because it's hitting on the chassis rails. Yeah. So I have to take the K-frame back down and put the original one back in. Taking its freaking time to start. Oh, it's just taking its time to start. Finally got it. Okay.
Just come back from a test drive with the VT. We've had a few issues with it software-wise, and we've checked everything out now and taken it for a drive for over 15 minutes, and it seems to be perfectly fine. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it doesn't come back with any issues, but we can only do so much and drive it for so long. So it seems to be perfectly fine. Tried to drive it exactly how the customer would drive it with the traction control on, and it seems to be fine. Okay, here we've got a 1970 Mustang, something a bit old school. It's nice to have the oldies. This one here, we've just put new rear axle seals in. It's come in for a major service. We've found a few things wrong with it. So rear axle seals, that means pull all this out, pull the axles right out, put new seals inside the housing, put it all back together. We've also put new bearings on it because the bearing's a bit worn. So what happens was this moves up and down, moves up, the shaft moves on the seal, and it was leaking over the brake shoes. So we don't want that. New bearings, new seals, that should fix that problem. And over here, we forgot to had some power steering issues. Now this has got an unusual type of power steering setup. I haven't seen it before, whether it's factory or aftermarket, I'm not sure. The hoses were leaking. We've had new hoses made up. We've had play in the power steering knuckle itself here. We've modified that to make it fit. We've also put some new bushes here that had play in it. So these are the replacement hoses. Now the hose guys repaired the ends of them, and he's also put reinforced steel braided hoses inside these rubbers. So as it moves backwards and forwards along here, it does tend to rub against some fittings, and that can't be helped. So we've had to put reinforced hose there so that it'll last and keep up to the job. A lot of these parts are interchangeable with the older Falcons, and we can change some bits, but some bits are things that we haven't seen before and not familiar with. So we've just got to improvise and make sure it works properly, and if we're not sure, we might have to do it once or twice. But yeah, we've got to make sure it's right. This car goes to the drags. We've put new front brakes on it, new rotors, as you can see here. There's new rotors on the car. The brake pads haven't been fitted yet, but they will be going on shortly. Also, when we finished all the repairs on the car, we're going to put new plugs in it, put it on the dyno, and finish the service. We've put fresh oil in it, changed the oil and filter, and we're going to put it on dyno and see if we can tune it up and make a little bit more power. Here's a really good example of how a rubber hose perishes and cracks. You can see the crack right in there. Now this hose is really hard, and just with age, you know, these things happen. Same with brake hoses as well. You know, it's important to service your cars, older cars, and keep on top of these things. Now this is, look how stiff this is compared to the new hose. The new hose is nice and supple. This thing, much tighter to turn around. It just doesn't do the, this being on nice and supple, it won't crack as quick and should be as good as gold when we replace it.
Right now we're putting back together the rear braking system. Right now we're putting back together the rear braking system. We've replaced the wheel cylinders, and we're just putting on the last final touches before testing them out, adjusting them to everything's working. And they're really crap. Really don't like this old system. For this particular part of the job, we use brake cleaner. The discs come with the wax layer over them, so we clean them off with some brake cleaner. Shut up! I'm trying to do a segment here, so I look good on TV. Right now, we're lowering the vehicle. We do that by pressing 2 buttons on the other side of the hoist. What are you doing right there, Keegan?
Scraping away the corrosion, mate.
So what does that actually do? The corrosion, does that ruin something? Like just for the camera?
Yeah. It wrecks the seal.